In the first shepherding team video, Chad walked us through the goal of a shepherding team at the Alpine campus. The primary function is to help people determine their next step in their pursuit of God, and then, of course, to help them along that next step if they need help with that. And so in this video, we're going to just talk specifically about helping people find their next step, because Chad talked about it in terms of people coming to check out Alpine and then moving on. We want to try to move them into foundations and then move people into continue to build in their life, building up and out in their life, and then eventually people are inviting their friends and helping their friends check people out and all that sort of stuff, and you end up with a smiley face and everyone's happy. But really, what we want to do is we want to talk about learning to make the reads. Let me explain what I mean by that. In a football season, a quarterback will go through his reads. He'll look at his first read, his receiver, to see if he's open. If he's not open, then he'll go to his next read. And if he's not open, then he'll go to his next read. And if no one's open, then he'll just take the ball and run with it, or get sacked if he's a Chicago Bear. And so you need to learn, as a shepherding team member, you need to learn how to make your reads. So here's your first read. If you're up there praying with someone, as Chad kind of mentioned, your very first read is this: are they ready for their defining moment? Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes people will come up there after a message and they'll be obviously ready for their defining moment. Now, as a shepherding team, you should talk about this pretty regularly, because just like it takes a while for a quarterback to get good at making his reads, it'll take a while for you as a shepherding team member to get good at learning when someone's ready for their defining moment. And so if they're ready for that, here's what I would do: is take them through 101. 101 is 5 pages. I've taken people through the entire 101. It takes me about 15 minutes. In other times, I've just sort of highlighted the 4 truths in 101. Make sure that you're ready to do that as a shepherding team member. There's no reason to wait. You don't have to send them to a foundations group. If they're ready, lead them to Christ right there. Lead them to their defining moment. You'll love it. It'll be great. Now, if you're not sure about that, if you're not sure about the first read, you can't really tell. It seems like maybe, especially with a first-time visitor, a lot of times they don't really, it's all still so new to them. If you're not sure about it, don't force it. Don't force them through 101. Here are some other next steps that you might find yourself taking, especially when you're praying with people up front. You might have that emotional first-time visitor, but you're not sure that they're really ready or they really get it yet, but they're definitely, their interest is piqued. And so one of the things you can do is maybe bring them to the welcome table. If you haven't been there recently, go check it out. There's a pamphlet underneath the number 1 panel that it's got information on the front and the back. You can give that to them. It's written just for them. There's a foundation booklet under the number 2 panel, and there's also a pamphlet under the number 2 panel with information about foundations classes on the back that are currently available. So if you're not sure, if they're not ready for 101, just bring them to the welcome table, give them some of that information, and maybe follow up with them later in the week. What if there's a new believer who comes up who's already taken foundations, but they come up for prayer and you end up praying with them, and one of the things you notice is they need connection. Maybe they're struggling with something in their life as a new believer. Coming to faith is a lot of times it takes a while to sort of get connected into the church. So help them get connected. Connect them to a small group. Connect them to a team, a serving team. Those are 2 great ways to connect someone who needs that connection. What about a couple wanting to get married? Someone who comes up and says, "Hey, I want to get married," and they think you're a pastor, and that's great. Don't correct them. Just what you do is what I would do, and what anyone does is send them to the first step for anyone that wants to get married is to fill out a form at alpinechurch.org/weddings. So send them there, and they can fill that form out, and then that will get to the campus pastor, whoever needs to get that. So that's an easy one. What about a couple struggling in their marriage? They're already married, but they're struggling in their marriage and they need help. Certainly pray with them, but then encourage them to check out alpinechurch.org/marriage. We've got some great resources and tools there for them to check out. And if you want to, even go through some of those resources with them. If you're comfortable doing it, you can meet with them later in the week or connect them. Talk to your campus pastor about connecting them at another level to some counseling that the church offers. What about a single mom with a rebellious kid? What would you say to them? Again, pray with them. Pray for their child with them. But then encourage them before they go. Hey, check out alpinechurch.org/youth. and encourage them to go to our youth group on Wednesday nights. What about an Alpiner that's not getting enough? So, someone who comes up and is kind of complaining, and you get to be the lucky one that hears their complaint. What would you say to them if they say, it's not deep enough, these sermons aren't good enough for me, I'm sitting around people that have tattoos and that sort of thing? What would you do? Here's what I do to them is I ask them the question, are you serving anywhere? And usually they say no. And so send them to alpinechurch.org/teams, where they can sign up to serve on a team, and maybe that will change their attitude. What about a young adult questioning the Trinity? Someone who has a big, deep theological question. The greatest place to send them is rednotes.org. Again, you can answer those questions if you want, or send them to rednotes.org. And when they go there, there's all kinds of resources there. And if you don't know what those resources are, I'm sure you'll talk about that in your shepherding team meetings in the near future. And then finally, just lastly, what if you're not sure? What if you're not sure what the next step is? You're kind of stumped. You don't get a good read. You don't know what to do. What I always like to do with everybody is connect them to Alpine Daily, our daily devotional. I say, check it out. Start a new habit in your life. If you're married, do that every morning with your wife. When people start getting the word into their Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, just a little bit even, it can transform lives. And so that can be a great next step for just about everyone. So those are just some sample next steps. And I just want to encourage you. You'll be talking about this as a shepherding team member. This is what your primary function. So you'll always be answering questions. No one's perfect at this stuff. But let's stay happy and healthy, and let's move forward and help people shepherd, or help people pursue God at Alpine Church.